The sun bled crimson across the horizon, painting the dusty plains of the Wild West in shades of fire and shadow. In the heart of a forsaken canyon, where tumbleweeds rolled like ghosts and the wind whispered secrets of forgotten dreams, stood Tomás Herrera, a weathered rancher with calloused hands and a heart scarred by loss. His boots crunched against the parched earth as he faced a sight that stopped him cold, a young boy, no older than 12, trembling in the grip of Desperado's rusty revolver. The outlap's eyes glinted with desperation, his finger twitching on the trigger. Me lo quitaré. Solo hazlo, the boy whispered, his voice cracking like dry timber, as he fumbled with the frayed rope binding his wrists. Tomás froze, his hand hovering over the Colt at his hip, and in that moment, he did the unthinkable. The canyon was a crucible of fate that day in 1887, in the lawless stretch of New Mexico where men carved their legacies with blood and grit. Tomás, a man of 50 winters, had seen his share of hardship. His wife, Maria, had died a decade prior, taken by fever, leaving him with a ranch teetering on ruin and a daughter, Elena, who had grown fierce and distant under his gruff care. He'd come to the canyon chasing a rumor of stolen cattle, his cattle, only to stumble upon this nightmare. The boy, Miguel, was a stranger, a half-starved orphan from a nearby mission, caught stealing bread from the outlap's camp. The Desperado, a gunman named Salas Crow, was a wanted murderer, his face plastered on faded posters from Santa Fe de Tucson. Silas needed a horse to flee a posse, and Miguel was his bargaining chip. Tomás' heart pounded as Miguel's words echoed. The boy wasn't begging for his life, he was offering to free himself, to spare Tomás the choice of drawing against a man who'd kill a child without blinking. The rope slipped from Miguel's wrists, and he stood defiant, his dark eyes locking with Tomás. Just shoot him, Miguel said, boy steady now. Ain't worth both of us dying, punto. The canyon held its breath. Salas laughed, a hollow sound, and pressed the barrel harder against Miguel's temple. Tomás' fingers brushed the worn handle of his gun, but something deeper stirred, a memory of Maria's gentle voice, urging him to be the man she'd believed in, not the hardened loner he'd become. Didn't draw. Instead, Tomás raised his hands, palms open, and took a step forward. Let the boy go, Silas, he said, his voice low but steady, like the rumble of distant thunder. Take my horse. Take my rifle. Hell, take my boots if you want. Just let him walk. The posse was closing in, hoofbeats faintly echoed in the distance. Silas' eyes darted, sweat beading on his brow. You think I'm stupid, old man, he snarled. One move, and the kid's brains paint the dirt. But Tomás saw the crack in Silas' armor, fair, raw and human, beneath the bravado. He took another step, his gaze never leaving Miguel's. You're scared, Tomás said. I no scared. Lost my wife to sickness, my land to drought. But you don't gotta add a boy's blood to your sins. Miguel's lips trembled, but he didn't move. The rope lay discarded at his feet, a symbol of his courage. Tomás' mind raced. He could have shot Silas, his aim was true, honed by years of fending off rustlers, but the risk was too great. One to each, and Miguel was gone. So he did the unthinkable, he unbuckled his gun belt and let it fall. The Colt hit the ground with a thud, kicking up dust. Silas blinked, thrown off balance. What the hell are you doing, he spat. Tomás knelt, slowly, and began unlacing his boots. Told you, he said, boys come as a Sunday sermon. Take what you need. Ella walk barefoot to hell if it means this boy lives. The act was madness in a land where weakness invited death. Salas' cold bay shot them both, taken the horse, and vanished. But something shifted. Miguel's defiance, Tomás' surrender, they cracked the outlap's hardened shell. Silas' hand wavered, the revolver dipping. You die for a kid you don't even know, he asked, voice breaking. Tomás stood, barefoot now, his weathered face etched with resolve. I know what it's like to lose everything, he said. I ain't letting it happen to him. Or you, if you choose different. The hoofbeats grew louder. Silas glanced at the cañón's mouth, then at Miguel, then at Tomás. In a flash, he shoved the boy forward and bolted for Tomás' horse, swinging into the saddle. You're a damn fool. Silas shouted, but there was no venom in it. He spurred the horse and vanished in a cloud of dust. Miguel stumbled into Tomás' arms, sobbing. The rancher held him tight, his own eyes wet. You receive, mijo, he whispered, using the term he hadn't spoken since Elena was small. The posse arrived minutes later, led by Sheriff Harlan, a grizzled lawman who they tracked Salas for months. They found Tomas sitting against a rock, Miguel asleep against his shoulder, the gun belt still in the dirt. Harlan's deputies raised their rifles, expecting a fight, but the sheriff saw the scene and lowered his weapon. "What happened here, Herrera?" he asked. Tomas just shook his head. "A boy needed savon, cómo, he said. That's all." Word of the canyon spread like wildfire across the territory. Tomas Herrera, the loner who they lost everything, had faced down Salas Crow without firing a shot. Some called it cowardice, giving up his gun. Others saw the truth, a man who'd chosen life over pride. Miguel, though, became a legend, the orphan who they untied his own ropes and stood tall. The mission priest, Father Ruiz, took Miguel in, but the boy clung to Tomas, trailing him back to the ranch. Elena, now 19, was waiting at the gate, her sharp eyes softening when she saw the boy. "Who's this?" she asked. Tomas ruffled Miguel's hair. "Family," he said simply. The ranch, once a place of silence and grief, came alive. Miguel's laughter filled the corrals as he learned to rope calves. Elena taught him to read by firelight, her sternness melting into pride. Tomas worked harder than ever, driven by a new purpose. He sold half his herd to pay for Miguel's schooling, even as the drought tightened its grip. Neighbors, inspired by the story, brought supplies, sacks of beans, a milk cow, a new pair of boots for Tomas. "Heard what you did," said Old Man Jenkins, pressing a saddle into Tomas' hands. "Figure you earned this." Tomas tried to refuse, but Jenkins insisted. "Kindness ain't a weakness, Herrera. It's stronger than any bullet." Months later, a letter arrived from Santa Fe. Silas Crow had been caught, not by bullets, but by his own conscience. They turned himself in, confessing every crime but one. He wouldn't name the man who they spared him. "Tell Herrera," Silas wrote, "he showed me a man can change." Enclosed was a pouch of gold, stolen, yes, but enough to save the ranch. Tomas stared at the letter, his hands shaking. Eddie gambled his life on a desperate hope, and it had paid off in ways he couldn't have imagined. The emotional climax came one crisp autumn evening, as the three of them, Tomas, Elena, and Miguel, sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge. Miguel, now thriving, held a book Elena had given him. "You could have shot him," he said quietly, looking at Tomas. "Why didn't you?" Tomas leaned back, his barefoot scars a badge of honor. "Kijin says he said. Choosing, merci, that's the hard part. Your courage, untin, that rope, gave me the strength to try." Elena reached for his hand, her eyes shining. "You gave us a family, pa," she said. Miguel nodded, tears falling. "You gave me a home." The ranch flourished, not just with cattle but with hope. Miguel grew into a scholar, Elena a teacher, and Tomas a quiet hero whose story was told in saloons and churches alike. The canyon, once a place of terror, became a pilgrimage site for those seeking courage. Tomas never wore a gun again, but he didn't need to. His act of selflessness had rippled outward, touching lives they never meet. In the end, the Wild West wasn't just a land of outlaws and showdowns. It was a proving ground for the human spirit. Tomas Herrera, the rancher who froze and did the unthinkable, showed that kindness could tame even the wildest heart. His legacy wasn't in gold or glory, but in the boy he saved, the daughter he reconnected with, and the outlaw who found redemption. As the stars blinked above the New Mexico plains, one truth shone clear: in a world of dust and danger, the greatest victory is choosing love over fear, every single time. Word count, 3,000.